even though my work's not representational, it is definitely influenced by my environment. So it's like I absorb everything around me and it sort of gets smushed around inside and filtered back out through my own filters and lenses and how I'm feeling at the time.
Welcome back to the podcast. I'm here in Hobart again. I'm in Hobart a lot lately. It's fantastic. And I'm here in another fantastic studio. We're audio only, so you can't see it, but I can assure you it's special. And we will talk about all this beautiful, colourful artwork that we're surrounded by here that is made by emerging visual artist Sarah L. Stewart. Sarah, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Tim. Thanks a lot. I really appreciate the opportunity.
And thanks for inviting me in.
You're welcome.
Yeah, it's delightful. I've got fizzy water as well. This is special. Yeah, warm welcome for your dogs. Reminds me of home with Bjarni. Yeah, unfortunately, Bjarni wasn't on this trip. So, yeah, like I say, we're surrounded by colour. And so I'm looking past you at the moment at these palettes that you have. Now, tell us about colour. What is so? I said so. Visual artist.
Mm-hmm.
You paint.
Yeah.
Tell us about your painting practice. What is it?
Well, firstly, I'd say it's evolving because I haven't been painting that long. Well, 5 years or so. And when I started painting, it's the medium, I guess, that kind of drew me to painting rather than drawing, or although I do incorporate some, drawing. I love mixing colour. I'm not so keen on primary colours, but I love mixing colours. So I'm particularly keen on complex colours, but I work generally with a limited palette. So you can see there are 3 different palettes in this sort of this collection behind me. So yeah, I find it challenging to see how many different sort of shades and tints and tones I can get out of just 3 colours in black and white. Yeah, so I don't wear particularly colourful clothes, but my home, as you see, as we walk through, it's pretty vibrant in terms of colour, and my paintings are colourful. So I don't know, maybe it's a way of bringing out the inner colour. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even the rug on the floor of your studio here. I mean, when we came in, it's out the back of your home, and the walls are
falling apart.
Well, it's concrete. Because they're plastered.
They show history.
So we can see the plaster. And what you said to me was, you can keep it warm in winter, and I thought that was quite telling. It's sort of it's. But you create warmth through colour. That just beautiful. What colour is that? That chair of yours?
I would call it
sort of burgundy.
Yeah, not quite. Yeah, a bit more cadmium red in with burgundy, I would say. So it's a warm red.
Exactly.
But it's not fire engine. So it's slightly more desaturated, I guess, than a out of the tube red. Yeah.
So you surround yourself with colour, right? Adorn yourself with colour. The colours come in. I like the way you describe how it's coming out of you. So even your greens have a warmth to them.
Yeah. No, I'm more drawn to warm colours than cool colours, and even when I use cool colours, I'll tend to use a warm glaze over the top just to sort of give that warmth. Yeah, I am a warm sort of temperature person, which is interesting that I've ended up in Tassie. Maybe that's why. If I surround myself with warm colours, I'll feel warmer.
I suppose that's it, isn't it? Trying to understand what it is and why we do it. Why is it that you paint? Where did it come from?
Well, as I said, I haven't been painting all that long, and in fact sort of came to painting as I was transitioning out of academic work, really, and sort of thought, well, I've still got probably a couple of decades left in me. What am I going to do? And I think, look, I've had a great working life. It's been quite diverse, quite checkered, and I've worked with lots of different people in various areas, but there was always something a bit missing, or not so much missing, a part of me that I felt wasn't really hadn't been given a chance to breathe and develop, and that I think was my creative side. So in a way, I think it's all that yearning has always been there, but I haven't had the time or the space to explore it. And I guess I'm now in a very fortunate position where I have plenty of time, and I don't have to make a living out of making art, which is incredibly liberating. I mean, it's nice, but I don't have to. So maybe it began in childhood. I don't know. I don't remember being a particularly arty kid. I don't remember being actively encouraged, not discouraged by my parents, but it was just, it was an extracurricular thing. I went to Saturday morning art classes or something, but it was never something to take seriously because you couldn't make a living out of it.
Yes. Very common tale.
Yeah. But I think it's always been there, in answer to your question. It's just been waiting for an opportunity to get out.
So, Sarah, what I'm really interested in is earlier in the conversation, you did use the word late, come to this late, and you sort of took us slightly back into childhood, and maybe, but probably not. There's nothing that stands out as to why. And there needn't be. But, you said you've had a career beforehand. So is it late? Because you said you've got probably 20 years ahead of you to do this. 20 years as an artist isn't a bad period of time to be in that. So
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you said you transitioned out of academia and you thought, what are you going to do? So why painting specifically?
Well, I guess in terms of the time frame, this transitioning out of academia coincided also with COVID appearing on the scene.
Yeah.
And so like a lot of people, I guess, that people were sort of turning to creative pursuits at that time, which was one of the benefits, I guess. And I knew I've never been to art school, so I've never learnt any other art history, other than what I've taught myself, or technical skills. And I thought, well, if I want to do painting or make any kind of work, I've got to get some skills and learn. So I found a few courses online, which at first I was a bit dubious about, but I actually learned a lot from various online teachers. But to get back to your question about why painting, I think there's something about paint that I just was drawn to. Its kind of physicality, its materiality, literally getting my hands dirty. I've tended to be a quite neat and ordered, organised, structured person in my earlier life, and I think I just felt like I wanted to be a kid again in some way. So the idea of literally, flinging paint around was so appealing. Absolutely. And I think the other thing is that I'd spent so many years with words, writing, and I love words. I still love words. But I just thought there must be another way to communicate. I just want to do it in colours and images and shapes. So yeah, that's kind of why painting I was drawn to that rather than, I guess, any other particular way of making art. I mean, maybe that might change in the future, but at the moment I feel like there's still so much more I've got to learn about painting that, I can't see that changing in a hurry.
I guess you love it.
Yeah.
No, but I just love this visual image you've just given us, all flinging paint around. I mean, you could fling a play around one day if you really fancy it, but it's the flinging that's important, right?
It is.
It is. You probably couldn't fling once before.
Well, yeah, flinging doesn't work in academia.
I don't know. I did it for 20 years, and I just didn't tell anyone I was flinging.
Yeah.
I never asked permission either.
Yeah.
So but when they did tell me to stop, then I just found something else to fling instead.
Yeah.
But I think that's the thing, right? Isn't it? There's so much conformity in so many areas of life, but to suddenly have your own space to do all the things that you felt you weren't allowed to do elsewhere. Maybe I'm going too far.
No, I think you're right. And I think it's about playing. It is about playing. And, not that I do want to go back into the, deep, dark depths of my childhood, but I was a quite serious child, and of course I played, but I don't think I played enough.
No.
And then as I grew up, I played even less. And so to come to making art and also finding teachers who basically start from the premise of play to begin with. Of course, at some point in the process of making a painting, you've got to start thinking and engage your mental processes and apply principles and all of that. But to get started, it's all about play, and I think that is what really appealed to me.
Yeah. And that's the hardest bit, getting started.
Yes. So a blank canvas doesn't freak me at all. It's when you have to move beyond the play, it's like, okay, this looks like a dog's breakfast. Now we've got to start putting, some structure around it or into it or over it or something. Yeah.
How do you do that?
Well, I guess when I finished playing, I wait till something sort of starts to emerge that pleases me, and then I will start to kind of think about what design elements I'm kind of featuring, and are there too many? Do I need to pare back a bit? And principles like what are is the value contrast, okay, in terms of, light and dark and balance. So, but that comes very much later on in the process for me, and I spend a lot of time layering.
Yeah.
So texture is another, I guess, element that I'm really drawn to, and I probably remove as much paint as I apply often, because that's how I discovered. A lot of it's experimentation, how I can get a sort of a visual texture without necessarily a tactile, physical texture. So I've thought a lot about that too. Like, what is it about texture that really appeals to me, and the layers? And I think it's, again, look, I don't know, without sounding too sort of trying to make something sound more important than it is, but our lives are layered. So something about peeling back layers and then putting them back on has some kind of resonance for me about living, about life.
Yeah, it's funny actually. I said to you before the interview, I came from a coffee catch up, and I was talking a lot about Procreate, the illustration software. Fabulous. And I said, I love it, but I rarely use it because as a kid, I loved to draw and sketch, but I didn't really learn how to, but I just loved it. And it's a practice that fell away, and photography is my main practice now. So I rarely use Procreate because when I get on it, I'm adding lines, I'm adding shades, I'm adding to this thing all the time, and it just becomes this mess. And that's the point where I stop and switch it off and I go and do something else. It's what you just described there is actually what you need to do at that stage, I'm presuming, is to start to strip it away. Paint allows you to do that. And I know illustrators who use Procreate, that's a function that's the key to success with it. But I've only learned, like you, through watching online tutorials and stuff. Anyway, that's perhaps another point we should come back to. But I'm fascinated with this idea, and the fact that you're considering it conceptually, applying and adding and then taking away, adding and taking away. There's a give and a take in there. Like, really interesting.
And you get some, really happy surprises sometimes. It's like, oh, yeah, I forgot I'd put that under there several layers ago. So, it can be exciting because you don't always know what you're going to find when you. And I often, not on the canvases, but if I work on wooden panels, I'll take to them with sander after several layers, and again, you can find some little gems hidden under layers.
That must be fun.
Oh, it's great fun. It's great fun.
And that's it, isn't it? Yeah, come back to that. It's not. There's that childlike sense of play that actually. Yeah, that's all it is. There's a discovery in that. Play enables us to explore and discover things, reveal things to us, and show us something about ourselves, I suppose, which is, I guess, what you're doing through your painting. Yeah, cool. It's very, yeah. It's I did want to come back to that, what you said about, so you go to art school, neither did I. You don't have to go to art school.
No.
And I
didn't know that, you see.
No.
I didn't. I thought if you're going to be an artist, you've got to go to art school. And so that's why it never occurred to me. But anyway.
Well, that's why I still struggle for myself. And one of the reasons is like, well, yeah, you have a qualification, but you don't need a qualification. I do believe that you can educate yourself much easier today than perhaps when you and I were kids. There were those formal structures that you had to follow in order to get the educational content. But now there's democratization of content, so that if there's something you're struggling with here in the studio, I guess you just jump online, do you?
Yeah, or ask fellow artists, how do you do this, or what do you do? Have you tried this? Yeah.
And that's the it's actually, it opens up a conversation with a wider community as well, because you don't have to go to art school to find fellow artists. They're all around us here in Hobart, Tasmania more generally. But so, do you feel like you're part of an arts community here?
I do now. It did take a while. Well, yes, it did, because it took a while for me to call myself an artist for a start. But interestingly, just in the last little while, there are a few groups that have of friends who have set up, art mini groups, sort of, to either have coffee together and talk about our practice, or to something a bit more formal in terms of a presentation. So yeah, I do now feel part of a community, which is good, because I think the actual act of creating, it's quite isolating, and in fact that's the way I like it. If the dogs are quiet in here, that's fine, but if they're disrupting me, but I can just spend hours and hours in here. And that is the way I like it. That's the way I get into, I guess, the zone. But outside of that, it's so enriching to be able to talk to other artists about your practice. So yeah, it's an important element that I think can get lost if you're not connected into other groups, which is big reason why I was, drawn to find out about you and what you're doing, because that idea of being connected is, it's increasingly important, I think, in all areas of life. So not just art, but yeah.
Yeah. And you're coming along to one of our meetups.
Yeah.
Down at Contemporary Art Tasmania.
Yeah, well, Kat's just up the road actually from me, so it's great. Yeah, I'll just tell you a lovely little connection with Contemporary Art Tasmania is that when we first moved to North Hobart and I discovered that they were up the road, I joined as a member, and each year they used to have members exhibitions. So I had my first painting in a group exhibition at Contemporary Art Tasmania. So it sort of has a bit of a special place in my heart. So yeah.
Fabulous. Sawtooth Eye is like that for me.
Yes. Yeah. I've heard a lot about Sawtooth.
Yeah, because that first show, it's huge.
It was huge, and it was tiny, because what was interesting was we had to produce postcards of a painting. So and I think from memory it was something, the title of the exhibition was from me to you or something. So in fact the paintings were images, postcard size images. I was so excited. To be there. Yeah.
There's something you said before, and I can't quote you, but I know from having spoken to you at the meetup. So you lived on Bruny Island before, and you talked about moving to Hobart because for cultural connection. Yes. Yeah. So yeah, is that all part of? Did that happen before or after the art?
No, after. So we were living in North Hobart before we moved to Bruny, just a couple of streets away, actually. And I guess probably partly had this sort of romantic idea of, living on the island, on an island, surrounded by beauty and with a big, massive studio where I could, go big. And that is exactly what we had. It was beautiful. And I painted a lot. That's pretty much all I did for 18 months, apart from go swimming. But I didn't have enough connection with other. There are artists, quite a lot of artists, in fact, on Bruny Island, but they don't always connect. So, yeah, that was part of the reason for wanting to move back to Hobart. It was a fabulous experience, and just, really to spend a year and a half. It was almost like, in hindsight, it was like a residency.
Yeah, I live in the country, and I'm about 2.5 hours from Hobart, an hour from Lonnie, and I've written I've wrote blog posts about this last year, and it is this thing of I'm close enough to be able to come and do stuff, but far enough away to have that solitude that I need. Yeah, but it can get lonely. Yeah, and so to get that cultural connection, you've got to come into the metropole, so to speak. And so, but being in the metropole is really important because, as you say, you live up the road from CAT. You're a member. You got your first piece shown at their member show, and that might not have happened if you were still in Britain, perhaps.
Look, and you can, every Friday night there are, exhibition openings, so you can actually do an exhibition crawl, just be and the museum and galleries generally, being able to kind of just immerse yourself in that environment at will is something that I find important in terms of input, I guess, that sort of nourishment.
Yeah, we do. That's a beautiful word. Yeah, and I've never ever used that on the podcast before. I don't think. I'm not sure if anyone has. It is to be able to have access to art and culture in all its forms. Yeah, we were talking about cinema before, and while I'm here in Hobart, I'm going to go to the cinema because I can. To use that sort of metaphor, I suppose, is we can go and we can devour or nourish ourselves with, and then come back and with the energy of fueled up and ready to go again. Get the grinder out, sandpaper out and sand down your painting and discover something you hadn't seen before. Yeah, I'm just riffing off of what you're saying.
Yeah.
It is. It's a beautiful metaphor, actually. So over your shoulder, I see you've got a poster on the wall there for a show made on Bruny.
Yeah.
What did I say?
Bernie.
Is it all right? The other end.
Yeah.
By the way, if you don't know Tassie, the Bruny Island is a beautiful little island. There's a lot of culture down there. It's not lacking in culture.
No.
Food culture is a big thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I think the big thing, particularly this time of year, is January. It's the middle of summer. The only way back is the ferry, right?
Yeah.
You were telling me that's the trouble is if you wanted to come over to Hobart for something to see a show in the evening, you're not getting back the same day.
Yeah.
Bruny Island is somewhere very special. Tell us about Made on Bruny.
Well, that was not my last show. I can't remember. I've had a few shows at Nolan Gallery down at Salamanca. Thanks, Betty. Shout out to you. And this was while I was actually still living on Bruny but about to move back. So all the paintings that I had done. So it sort of chronicled the time in a way of living on Bruni.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what that was about, and so it was lovely. Some of my friends from Bruni actually came over for the opening, which was really nice. Yeah.
And okay. And is that how a series of work would come together for you? Is it sort of time-based or place-based? Is situated in something?
That's a really interesting question, because usually I don't start with any kind of thematic idea. I start with a palette, and the palette, I guess, I don't know whether it reflects my mood, my feeling. I'm, a lot of bluesy greensy at the moment, and I think because they're summery for me, whereas in winter maybe I do more reds and oranges. Yeah. And the thread that links them sort of emerges as I go on, and I know when a painting's finished when I get a title for it.
Okay.
So, I find I get into trouble if I start off, or I find it more difficult if I start off with an idea, because I think that kind of inhibits the play stage for me, because I've got to fit this theme, which was why it was, after I had my application for a show at Brunswick Street Gallery in Melbourne was accepted. I thought, oh God, what have I done? What have I set myself up for here? Because I had to, you had to sort of talk about your concept, like what is the idea for your proposed show, and so then I had to stick to a theme. So I found that quite challenging, and but I think it was it's loose enough. So the theme for that, or the title for that, is read between the lines, because I had this idea that I wanted to incorporate text somewhere into a painting, even if it was a layer of collage, underneath that may not even end up being visible. And they do. All these paintings have a piece of text somewhere in the layers, and in some of them, you can just see a bit of it peeking through. So my idea with that was the whole various meanings about reading between the lines, and why we need to even more these days with fake news, etc. But also that the meaning isn't always obvious.
No.
So usually I don't have any idea for a series, but then they start to come together, because I work on multiples. So I usually work on at least 3 or 4 paintings at a time and move between them. So they sort of inform each other. And if I get stuck on one, I can just say, okay, well, you go and sit in the corner for a while. You're not behaving. I'll move on to this one. And then when I come back to that one, I think, oh, okay, well, I could do that on that. So I love working on more than one painting at a time, because it stops me overworking. If I'm working on one and it's not working, I have a tendency to work it into the ground, and then it ends up being totally obliterated and painted over and started from scratch again.
Right.
So, yeah, it's part of my process now, I think, to work on several paintings at a time.
Yeah, but you did say, you prefer. It's not thematic. You prefer not to begin with a theme. But I guess that's the interesting thing, is how a series of work would come together. The theme will emerge because you're working on them simultaneously and at different times. But also how you talked about the seasons, that, different colours for different seasons. And I'd love to see what... I mean, we don't really have 4 seasons here in Tasmania. It's an imposed idea.
Yeah.
But to see how the seasonality looks.
Well, that's where my Made on Bruni show actually did reflect that a bit.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of water, watery sort of colours, and you could see that it was I think I could, and I think most people could see, even though, as you can see, I'm an abstract artist and quite non-objective.
Yes,
at that, not even
before.
Yeah, abstract. So you won't see anything recognisable necessarily in terms of, you know, representational art. But yeah, there's always a meaning. And
you did say that two things you did on Bruni was paint and swim, and hence the water, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's not a not conscious choice, is it, that you're making? I suppose you actually these are choices that come up through the subconscious and onto the canvas.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I also call myself an intuitive abstractionist, and I think that whole thing about intuition and where does that come from is a big thing to explore, I think, because I'm still not sure. All I know is that my best work is when I don't think too much about it initially. As I said, I think before, of course, at some point, the thinking brain's got to start coming in and go, now, come on, this has got to, you know, come together in some way. But I guess that the way I kind of understand it is almost like, even though my work's not representational, it is definitely influenced by my environment. So it's like I absorb everything around me and it sort of gets smushed around inside and filtered back out through my own filters and lenses and how I'm feeling at the time. So is that intuition? Oh, look, I don't know, but it feels intuitive.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, I you've said it a couple of times now, at least twice, that at some point you've got to bring the thinking brain back in.
Yeah.
And I would actually ask, do you really need to?
Well, I think for me, I do. I'm not saying all artists do, but I do, because I'm not. If I stop a painting before I've started to look at it more critically, I guess, you know, look at the value and the contrast and the balance and all of that, then I'm not happy with the result.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that all artists, but I do to feel happy with the end result.
That was a rhetorical question, but it leads your answer to it leads me to the next rhetorical question. But I think it's food for thought for all of us, really. It's the sort of thing I think about with my photography and storytelling. But the question is, well, why do you need to bring feel that you need to bring the thinking brain in, and you don't have to answer that, because that's that for me is that would lead back to, well, why do I make photographs? Why do you paint? Why do it's sort of.
I think it is a good question, because I think it tells me and to you and anyone who's listening quite a bit about me, is that
Exactly.
I have trouble turning my brain off. And that's not a good thing. But it can be useful. It can be quite useful to have some, analytical skills. But I'd like to, as I paint more, bring the thinking brain in later, because I still think a lot of my paintings are quite tight. And some people like that. But I'd like them to be a little bit looser, but not too loose. Got to have some boundaries, Tim.
Yeah.
Some parameters.
Well, you have 20 years to explore that.
Yeah, that's true.
You're telling me that you've showing Melbourne coming. Tell us all about that.
Well, it's at the Brunswick Street Gallery in Fitzroy, and the show's called Read Between the Lines. It's at the end of March. So all these paintings that you can see in here are going to be part of that show. I've just started oiling the frames, the Tassie oak frames. So, so it's exciting and a bit scary.
First time off the island?
Yeah, for the paintings. yeah. Although I have a few people who have visitors to Tassie who have bought paintings, but it's the first time I've had a show off the island. So Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah,
It'll be fun. Yeah.
fabulous.
Yeah.
And I think I know the space. I just can't picture it. So, how many works of art are you making for that show?
I think last count, I've got about 16, 17. The way I've never been to Brunswick Street Gallery, but the way I understand is they have several galleries, and so they have a joint opening at once, which I think is great, because I don't know many people in Melbourne. You know, you can't sort of drag your friends along from Tassie. So what I understand is that, you know, if people come to see someone's, a friend's, you know, show, then they'll usually will wander around all of the shows. So I think that's a plus for me. Yeah.
So will it be curated by the gallery?
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So they will curate the space, and fabulous.
Yeah.
Well, look, if you do need anyone to carry your bags for the open,
sure. Well, actually, speaking of carrying bags, when I actually you know, found out about the cost of transporting all of these, I thought, I said to Linda, why don't we book the car on the Spirit and go over and have a holiday? So that's what we're doing. So we're piling the car up with the paintings, and we'll drop them off, and then, you know, I don't know, go to Dalesford or somewhere, you know, go out for a few days, then come back for the opening in Melbourne. But
spa weekend. Fresh. Yeah. Oh, there you go. Ferries are a big thing in your life, by the sound of it.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. So again, if you don't know Tassie, you can fly to and from Tassie. But yeah, no, the Spirit is the ferry.
Or the car ferry, the vehicular ferry.
That's it. Yeah. So lots of ferries around here.
Yeah.
So, but it's all part of the fun. It's a proper old road trip.
Yeah.
It's on the back.
Unfortunately, there won't be room for the dogs, so they'll have to stay. They'll go out to some friends out in the country. They'll be fine.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, are the dogs a big part? You said about them coming into the studio when they behave. But yeah, I mean, they're lovely.
Yeah.
They're absolutely gorgeous. Do you enjoy that companionship?
Oh, yeah.
In the studio, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. They just have that sort of, I don't know, energy that only dog people really understand, I think. Yeah. Other people go like, what? It's a dog. You know, but
I know.
Yeah.
Because as you said, it can be solitary practice, and you can just lose that sense of time once you get into it. So to have someone there with you, that's great. Well, Sarah, thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you.
It's been fabulous. You've really opened up a few things there for me to go away and think about. I think for all of us to go away and think about, and it's and also the fact that, you know, it's never too late, and that really shouldn't be a thing. It's like, you know, I'm excited to see where you take your practice over the next 20 years.
So am I.
Where the dogs come along with you, and hopefully I can get to Brunswick in March.
That'd be great. That'd be great. Love to see you there.
Thanks for inviting me into your studio.
Thank you, Tim.